So, again, welcome everyone. I'm so honored and excited to introduce Chandramukhi today. Um, Not only because she's my dear friend, but she's an inspiration to many. She's Let me tell you a little bit about Chandramukhi and her upbringing, which is really special. Mukhi, do you mind muting yourself just for a minute? Because there's a lot of echo.
Maybe it's coming from mine. I'll just mute mine.
Yeah, just until I'm done and then I'll mute myself. Because when you were singing, it was fine. So Chandramukhi Didi, she's a daughter to Srila Prabhupada disciples. She was born and raised a devotee since a very young age. She went to not only Srila Prabhupada disciples, but her parents are also associated with Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. So much influence of Mahabhagavats in her life. And she went as a child to the ISKCON Gurukul, so she's a Gurukuli. And in 97, when Chandramukhi was very young, Srila Gurudev came to Australia for the first time, to Murwalamba, where her and her family hosted Gurudev many years. Her parents, they have this beautiful property that Srila Gurudev stayed at and gave her family so much mercy, so much love. And Srila Gurudev always encouraged Chandramukhi Didi and Ragleka Didi, her sister, to preach. And the first time I met her was when she was preaching, and she came to New Zealand on a preaching tour. And that was like, I think 2002 or 3, like super early days. And we actually hosted, I was just a teenager, I think, and we hosted Chandramukhi Didi and Vrindavaneshwari Didi in our home. And that's when I met Chandramukhi Didi. And I remember as a very young girl thinking, like, I want to be just like her. And then I moved to Brisbane for my university. And I was just remembering today that I had written to Gurudev just before I moved to Brisbane. And I'm just going to read like a paragraph from Gurudev's letter. Okay, so there's something that's unrelated, but it's about sadhan bhajan, so it's really sweet. So I'm gonna read that as well. Regarding your sadhan and bhajan, my sincere advice is that you fix the goal of your life very clearly, and after you have done this, you learn the process and practice the same how to attain the goal very soon. Without any fixed goal, your sadhan and bhajan will always be weak, and you will be entangled in Maya without any doubt. I know that we have so many nice devotees in Brisbane, and they have very good programs every week. And they observe all Vaishnava festivals. Chandramukhi and others are there. I am requesting you to meet with them regularly and attend their programs. This will certainly help you and become strong and happy. Please know that I am in good health. Looking forward to hearing from you again with good news. So that's in one letter. And then also I remember a few times when we actually met Gurudev, specifically one time at Karuna Didi and Prakash Prabhu's house. He looked at me and you were right next to me, and he says, be with her and you will be okay. And so Gurudev's words came true when Chandramukhi Didi and we actually lived together for like about 6 months, I think, together in Brisbane. And then she asked me to, when I was, I think, just finishing university, and then she asked me to come on her European tour with her, and as her sidekick. And that was honestly one of the most amazing experiences of my life, which I will never forget until date. I cherish those memories so much, and I feel like I learned so much. Without knowing that I'm learning so much, I feel I learned so much. And Chandramukhi had been doing this for many, many years prior to that. So it's not easy, and I have so much respect for preachers in general, but especially girls and women. Gurudev empowered his daughters so much, and he would always say in Australia, like I mean everywhere, but like be strong, be like lions, and he would be referring to Chandramukhi Didi, Ragleka Didi, Damodar, Priya Didi, like so such powerful preachers, and for girls, really just inspiration for us. So I am so honored. There's so much more I can like go on and on, but we'd like to hear from Chandramukhi about her memories. And when I spoke, I actually had so many memories that were intertwined with Chandramukhi's, because a lot of my last darshan with Gurudev was with Chandramukhi. We were both in the room with her, and that was one of the most special, like something that I will carry in my heart forever, forever, and for lifetimes. Such an impressionable darshan. Like I can't even talk about that without crying. And so Chandramukhi has just been there through so much with me. So she's so special to me, and of course, like such a jewel of Gurudev Sangha. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Chandramukhi Didi to please speak and share all her memories with us. You have to unmute yourself.
I thought I did. Anyway, I did now. Great, well, thank you. That actually brought me back so many memories. Just you telling me all those things. When I think of Gurudev, like when you go about your daily life and you kind of don't think about it so much, but when you're asked to speak, you have to think about it, and it's so good because just a flood of memories come back. It's so wonderful. Well, first of all, I just want to offer my heartfelt obeisances unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev. Om Vishnu Paraya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Vitinamine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I guess the place to start is at the beginning. um, Although as I was thinking of memories, they were definitely not in chronological order. But I'll start off and see where we go with it. Um, yeah, they just come in and out, and there's so many. Because I met Srila Gurudev in 1997. I was 17, just turning 18 while he was there, and then we were, had his association for 14 years, which is so amazing. I feel so grateful and um, happy that I was able to have so much time there with Srila Gurudev before he entered Nitya Leela. So I was a student at the time, and I was attending university, studying to be a teacher. And I just finished my first year of university. It was my first year moving out of home. And I had, actually, that year, I had a lot of prayer going on in my heart because I was very sheltered as growing up and out in the world. So I really took shelter a lot of the holy chanting and praying just to kind of handle where I was and what I was doing. So I guess it was my first experience as an adult out in the world, and I was really taking shelter a lot. And I remember actually distinctly praying at one point, well, Krishna, if you want me to come to you, you're going to just have to show me how. And so many months later, not so many months later, at the end of that year, in January, end of January, um, Srila Gurudev came into our life, and it was just so amazing. We had Vajanti Maladidi and her husband, who was Nanda Kishore Prabhu at the time, Chidandi Maharaj. They were in Mawulambar, and they had come partly because Gurudev was coming to the West now, and they were trying to share about Gurudev to everybody. And so I remember she'd given us the Prabandhavali with that book. We know his beautiful face on the front cover, his blue eyes, and I remember saying, "Wow, who's that?" And then he came. It was just so amazing. Um, so he came to our area, which is only he was staying at a house which was only about 5 minutes away, over the hill basically, and we would go and see him every evening. He would be giving class. He was actually in Australia for 3 weeks that first year. He's never, I don't think he's ever done that in the West anywhere in one spot. And I think they had made that time because they thought they might travel around, but it didn't end
Mm.
up. He just stayed here in Wollumba.
Yeah.
And so where they were at this devotee's house, Devendranath Prabhu, they ended up staying there just for a week, and then they came to our house, which has got a whole story behind it. Um, yeah, but I just remember going there and feeling like my heart was completely at home. Everything, the whole experience of being in front of Gurudev just felt like being at home, and at home that I didn't even know I was looking for. Like, just so deeply at home, and everything seemed from the heart. I remember Krishnadas Prabhu, he was singing kirtan, and he was singing from the heart. Tunga Didi coming up and putting her arm around you. How are you? It was just so much love and affection. All his disciples had so much love and affection, and it was just amazing. And I just, yeah, it was just completely awakened in my heart. I mean, I'd grown up as a devotee, and my parents were devotees and everything, but all of a sudden the songs, like Guru songs, came alive. Shri Guru Charan
Yeah.
Padma, Gurudev Kripa Bindu Dia, they came alive. Everything, Krishna consciousness came alive. And I remember in the evenings, we'd go up to see him after after class, just before, like after Gora Arti, just before Prasadam, and he would be in his room after the class, and we were able to go up and do pranams to him, and then go down for Prasadam. And I just remember that, like that visual of him sitting there, and he would give cookies as well, and he just the impression was, oh, that's what Srila Prabhupada was like. Now I know what Srila Prabhupada was like. The whole transcendental vibe and love and affection, and yeah. And I used to take a lot of photos, so because I used to be a lot into, with those old cameras before the digital ones came in, and I was quite into photography because my father's a photographer. So I used to take lots of photos of Gurudev, and it was funny. I was only 18 or 17. I was like, oh, taking photos with my heart. I felt like, because everything was like heartly, and then Gurudev would give his heartly blessings. Everything was just from the heart. Um, so I felt like I was serving by taking photos, which ended up being that way because Gurudev accepted that. So after he'd been there for a week,
About the photos, I remember you telling me that he posed for photos,
yeah,
um,
years
in
later,
that little round, you know,
Octagon.
building structure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he posed and he gave you like side profiles and
Yes, he
um,
did.
I remember specifically for his Vigraha, right? I
Mm-hmm.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
All right. You can share that.
I will. That was
Yeah.
about 3 years later, so I guess I'll get to that in a minute. Thanks for reminding
Sure.
me.
So sorry. That just reminded me. The photos triggered my memory. Okay.
Thank you, because I might have forgotten.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so what happened was, the place where he was staying. Well, the thing is, in those days, Gurudev would travel with about 30 devotees, right? And so this devotee who was hosting Gurudev, he had trying to host all these other devotees as well, and he was having difficulties basically, and apparently he was even restricting the hot water, and yes. Anyway, I won't go into that, but Gurudev wasn't comfortable there. He'd actually asked the devotees to leave, and he just wanted Gurudev, and
Yeah.
they were looking for another place. So one of the days during that week, they actually came we invited Srila Gurudeva over to our house for a morning walk. My parents have a 5-acre property, very beautiful rainforesty kind of property, and um, he came to our house, which was so exciting. So he came for a morning walk, and they stopped. My sister and I made garlands and to give him, and they stopped down the road, but then they drove. We went down the road to meet him, but they drove straight past us, and we just had to run to try and catch up. And we ran and ran, and then we had to go onto our property before he did. So then we ended up greeting him at the door. And I remember giving him the garland and looking in his eyes for the first time, and so deeply, that deep, piercing glance. And he said, "I will help you." And so he came in, and he came into the house. We bathed his feet, and he had some nice exchanges with my parents. And then my father took him on a whole tour of the property. It's interesting. One place where he stopped on the property, Gurudev turned to him and said, "You shouldn't kill snakes." And it was in that spot that my father, a week ago or something, had killed a snake because he was worried that it was going to hurt people. It was this poisonous one. So Gurudev said, "You shouldn't." And he just stopped there in that spot.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible.
Uh, so yeah, Gurudev, he looked, and then at the end, right? So he was sitting on the lawn just near the road, on a chair. I've actually got a photo of this. I caught this moment. My mother, her heart was just pouring with love and affection, and she said, "Everything is yours, Gurudev. This whole place is yours. We are yours." And my stepfather, Rajavallabha Prabhu, he said, he was thinking, "Oh, what did she just do?" and, and Gurudev just started laughing and laughing when she was offering it to him, and then he said, he twisted his hand and says, "I will take, I will take it." And anyhow, when he was leaving in the car, my mother, she's just bursting in love and affection. She actually grabbed his hand, and I've got a photo of that too. Grabbed his
Wow.
hand. Um, yeah, I've got photos of that whole day, and we ended up showing Gurudev those photos the next day. And Lalit Mohan Prabhu actually took me up there after the class, and Gurudev was so happy with the photos. So that was my first savor with him, is with the photos. Um, so yeah, and then they talked with us. Oh, we also had a program there, and a lot more people came to that program, and one evening program. So they approached my parents and asked if Gurudev can come and stay with us.
Wow.
So he did. My sister was at school. She was about 13 at the time, and she was at school. She had no idea it was happening. She came home to a house that had completely been turned over, and like so many people staying there. So Gurudev stayed in the garden, in this garden house, which is an octagon shape, with Maharaja and all his servants and everything stayed in the house. We had people in tents everywhere. It was this big festival all of a sudden, and so he gave classes in our lounge room for another 2 weeks. And that book, Pinnacle of Devotion, that's actually all from his classes in Australia that first year, where he was speaking about the goal of life and the pinnacle of devotion, establishing what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, the service of Srimati Radharani. So yeah, it was an amazing time. Um, and I had actually taken an initiation as a 14-year-old when I was younger from my other guru,
Okay.
but I never actually felt like I had connection with that person. Um, even the it was actually my mother really encouraged me to do it. It wasn't even really that I wanted to, and uh, even that the day that I took initiation, it was only Harinam, so it's not Diksha. Um, I felt I felt like I'd done the wrong thing in my heart, like it didn't feel right. And then when Gurudev came, I was like, "Oh no, I want this Gurudev. I want him to be my Gurudev. I'm not. I don't want the. I that this. I
Mm.
don't have a choice in the other one. So I was kind of a bit conflicted in my heart, and uh, but I was talking to different different god sisters, and they encouraged me to ask initiation anyway. And also Gurudev was saying in his classes, he was having people read from Srila Prabhupada's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and discussing that, the uh, first 4 chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in one of Srila Prabhupada's purports, and Gurudeva was elaborating on it, that you shouldn't accept a guru from just family and ecclesiastical line. It should be, you know, the real guru is real guru. He was elaborating a lot on Guru Tattva. So I felt like that was a sign, like, yes, okay, yes, that's it was kind, it was kind of like a family guru. And yeah, anyway, so my sister wanted to take initiation, so we went and had a darshan with Srila Gurudev. He was sitting on the lawn outside his nice little garden abode down at our house, and there was a few other people there, not many, and we were just crying. We couldn't talk. Gurudev had that effect, as you all know, that you know you just can't help crying. It's like you
Yeah.
feel so much at home. You feel so in relief. He's so much love and affection. So we just couldn't stop crying. We couldn't speak. My mom had to talk to him. So we were sitting in front of him, and he looked at us and he said, "Be frank. Like, what do you want?" My mom asked for us, and she said that we would like initiation, but um, me, who I was Chaitanya Mali at that point, she's had taken Harinam from this other personality. So Gurudev said that for my sister, everything was fine, that she can take initiation, but for me, um, I would have to. He would be my Shiksha Guru, and I was just completely devastated. And he turned to somebody else and was talking to them, and I was just crying even more. Then I was like, no, I want him to be my Gurudev. I don't want anybody else. I haven't had that experience with anybody else. He's awakened my heart, and then he turned back to me and he had some tears in his eyes, and he said, "Don't worry, I've accepted you." And then he took his palms like this, and he said, "I want to take your tears and offer them to the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika."
Wow.
Uh, and he was saying that to both my sister and I as well, so it wasn't just me. But he did say to me, "Don't worry, I've accepted you," because we were both crying. And anyway, he said you should come on Vasant Panchami, and I didn't know what Vasant Panchami was back then. But in my
Yeah.
heart, I felt like everything was going to be okay. And then later on, I spoke with Rajanath Prabhu, and he said the initiations are scheduled for Vasant Panchami. Anyhow, everything will be okay. But it's interesting how he did it in such a way that um, no one there really knew that he had told me to come take initiation. He just said, "Come along," on Vasant Panchami. So anyhow, we ended up going along on Vasant Panchami, and he gave me Harinam and Diksha. And yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to that other guru for, he, at the time, he told me to chant 4 rounds until I was 18, and then, you know, um, when I'm 18, I could do more. But which I did that. I did that for those years. So I'm grateful to him for helping me in that way. But he wasn't my eternal guru. My eternal guru, Krishna manifests to us in so many different ways. I know other people have been very inspired by that person, but it wasn't coming. Krishna wasn't coming to me through that personality. And Gurudev, there's also many different types of gurus and different levels of gurus, and Gurudev was the Uttam, topmost Mahabhagavat guru. So, um, yeah, so I'm so grateful that he accepted me and made
Yeah.
me his daughter, darling daughter, as he would say. So then, yeah, life began as his darling daughter. My life began, my real life. Um, yeah, another thing that in that time was funny. Nearly every night I was having dreams of Gurudev, and inspiring dreams. It was like that part of that attraction. And then as soon as I took initiation, they stopped. So it was like he was attracting me in, and then I'm his now. So I mean, I had more dreams later, but it wasn't every
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So on a Vasant Panchami, he gave you Diksha. There was no more discussion about it. That's amazing.
yeah,
And he gave you the name Chandramukhi, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes. And so then we would go to Kartik every year. Come to, he invited us to come to Brajmanda Parikrama, and we went once and then had to keep going every year pretty much. I think I only missed one. And I remember when we first arrived in Mathura, he was very happy to see us. He did send us a letter too after that, thanking us for hosting him. And different times over the years, he would say, he would refer to it as his home in Murwillumbah, in Yukai Murwillumbah. I
Yeah.
remember even, it's so wonderful how he accepted us into his family. It's like you think about Vrindavan. He was so much in the Vrindavan mood of how Krishna is your family member, right? Like
Yeah.
Krishna, Krishna's the mother. He's not God. He's the mother of. Sorry, he's the son of Mother
I know.
Yashoda and Nanda Baba. He's the friend of the Gopas. He's the beloved of Srimati Radhika, and they see him in that intimate way. So Gurudeva would make himself available. He made us his family member. Asking
Personal.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, asking after our welfare, checking in, even to the point of you know wanting to know what I was doing, how my university is going. When's that finishing? And then when that finished, he wanted me to finish that degree, which is another 3 years. But then he gave me so many instructions to preach his mission, and yeah, I remember one time uh, arriving in Mathura. Every time we came to his temple in Mathura, it just felt like going home. Um, I think it must have been a few years after I met Gurudev. I think maybe even I think it was around the time I finished university, and I was up. It was the first time arriving there at Kartik, and he called me over to him and said, "You should take notes of my classes and then preach everywhere." And during that Kartik, actually, every time I saw him, it would be something along the lines of become strong, study study my books, study my classes, and preach everywhere. And I was thinking, initially, I was so young. I was about 21 or something. And I remember thinking that, like Srila Prabhupada got an instruction and he didn't follow that till he was, elderly.
It was like 36 years later.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was always thinking, I'm so young, yeah, one day.
One day.
And no, he had other plans. So he wanted me to travel and preach pretty much. Like, I think it was 2002, I think I worked out. So I remember going to
Yeah.
Sydney, seeing Sydney, and he said, "You are strong now. You can preach."
Amazing.
And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Actually, no. Before that, I kind of realized, okay, I better start following this instruction because he'd given it to me 10 times that Kartik. So I came back after Kartik and I started doing it with the kids. I just got together with the devotee kids in our area, and I started giving classes and kids group kind of thing. And then I gave one class in Brisbane, and I was so nervous. You wouldn't believe how nervous I was. All these senior devotees in Brisbane, and I'm like 22 years old or something.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe I was a bit old. I think I was 24. Anyway, I was pretty young. Um, and anyway, I'd given one class in Brisbane, and then we saw Gurudev in May because he would, like usually he would come around January, February time every year. Um, but sometimes he would come through Sydney on his way to America because he had a round the world ticket. So we went to see him in Sydney in about May, and I'd given one class, right? And then that's when he said, "Now you can preach everywhere." And so
Wow.
then I got together with Vrindavaneshwari and we did a tour of Australia first. So we just, I don't know, I can't remember exactly how it went, but we went down the coast and got a train and luggage, and we went off and we did like 3-day programs here and there. And gosh, when I think back, I'm like, wow, it's only by Gurudev's mercy, you know.
Yeah.
He just follow, like he would say, if you follow Gurudev, then he will follow his instruction. He gives you the power to
Shakti.
accomplish
He
it.
gives the Shakti, yeah.
Yeah. So we went to and we got to Melbourne. And we did some programs there. And when I wrote to Gurudev about um, that we'd done it, he was really happy. And that's when he said, "Oh, can you go to New Zealand?" So that's when I met you.
Yeah.
He said he had some disciples there who nearly had taken initiation, and he wanted me to go there and help them. It's interesting though. When I was in Melbourne, I had a dream. I wish I could remember the details, but um, yeah, and oh, and one other thing. Okay, I'll tell the dream first. Yeah, so you know how we would see Gurudev usually, often, you know, between going to class to his room or when he comes out, and we'd all line up, and we'd hope that he would speak to us or something.
Yeah.
So, and you try to make eye contact.
Look at me, look at me.
So I had this dream just after we'd completed that little tour in Australia, and he, it was a dream of Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada, and they were linked arms as they were walking down the, um, row of people, and they both stopped at me, and they were so happy with me. That's all I remember, and they gave me lots of instructions, and I can't remember any of them. I just figured they must be eternal, going to my soul, because I can't remember those, but I wasn't meant to. But yeah, anyway, it just, that encouragement. It's amazing, you get that encouragement from within and without when you're trying to please Gurudev. And and one thing also is that I had always been very, very shy, and one thing that studying to be a teacher did is help me come out of myself. I mean, I was at high school doing speeches, shaking my hands, and all of the palm cards falling from the ground because I was so shy.
Oh.
So, but it's interesting how Gurudev can just bring you out and bring out strength in you that he can see that's in there. And whatever it is, whatever situation it is, whatever our service is, whether it's preaching or serving Thakurji or whatever it is, everybody has their own particular um, talents and everything that Sri Guru engages in the Lord's service. But I remember every time I did that, like a few days of classes or a week of classes, I would feel so strong, like so much strength coming, like every single time, and learning so much, as you said, Haripriya. Like
Yeah.
when you speak, you have to learn what you have to have full concentration, and you don't want to be deviating, so that's so much you're learning as well. So then we went to New Zealand and met Haripriya and lots of other wonderful New Zealand devotees. And after that, Gurudev said, just from time to time you can travel and do that, and yeah. And then later on, some years later, he ended up encouraging me to travel further in the world. So I did
The other side of the world.
three trips to Europe, and
Yeah.
third one with Haripriya. Yeah.
Now
So
looking back, I think like it's it's so like far out, like for just two girls to go and don't really know what situation we were like. Certainly for me, you had already done it, but still we had a lot of new experiences, new homes. We don't know who's going to host us, who's going to pick us up from the airport. Like it's just all like hanging on to this faith that, and it really was like good. They're just arranging everything. And yeah, like even like Turkey, the most random, like like the most random people. Yeah. It's amazing. Like I wouldn't dare do anything of that sort if it wasn't for Gurudev just like giving his full I remember in Italy he was like, be strong, go and preach. Like that was the beginning of the tour. Sorry?
He said, preach boldly.
Preach boldly. And I don't even know what that means. But he was arranging everything.
He
Yeah.
was. And there were so many times during that time that even if there was a difficult time that he thought that something funny was going on, it would work out. Like, remember that time we were in Italy and we came to um
Yes.
we had to get a train from where we were staying to the venue where Gurudev was staying and the festival was in Italy, and we got there. The trains in Italy aren't on time. At, well, that one wasn't, and so we were there like 3 or 4 hours late, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and there was no taxis around, and there was just like no way
Oh,
for us to get from the
yeah.
train station to where we were staying, and I rang that girl who didn't really want to help us, and um, it was impossible. We just were like, "What are we going to do?"
Dangerous. It was like we don't know what to do. What happened finally?
And then it's an Italian country, right? And not many people speak English, especially in that area. What
Yeah.
ended up happening was after a while, after we were kind of panic a bit, and we were like, "Oh well, it's up to Krishna, up to Gurudev." And then this lady just came along and she saw us and she said, "Oh, do you need a taxi? I've got a taxi that I booked." She just got off the train. "I've got a taxi that I booked, pre-booked, so you can come with us and we'll drop you off."
Yeah. Like it's a miracle. And then all your luggage or your main bag got stolen. Wasn't that Italy as well?
Yeah,
Outside
yeah,
of the train station. We were I think early for a train. We went out, we just sat in front of the train station in like a park area, and
yeah.
we both were sitting like on like right, I mean the luggage was in front of us. We're sitting in the park, luggage was in front of us, not a soul in sight. And then when we get up, what, 15, 20 minutes later, Chandramukhi's luggage is gone, just disappeared. And wow, yeah, we survived that. We survived everything.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know, but like looking back, I think like, yeah, we were like, okay, it's okay, whatever. We just kind of like keep going, keep going. Because Gurudev, it was so blissful. The whole thing was so blissful, just knowing that we're doing this for Gurudev. And I remember specifically, had some hard times as well. Like we had tears and all that. But you said one day, you said, everything that you do in service, all the hardship, Gurudev knows. He knows and he feels everything. And I remember you telling me that, and I was like, okay, that makes everything okay. Like it makes it all okay.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you can continue.
It reminds me of another story I heard recently, but that would be going off into someone else's story of Srila Govinda Maharaj. But he had just had a really difficult time. Actually, someone had punched him. That's right. He was doing his seva, collecting money or book distribution. Someone had punched him and he ended up in a lot of pain and in hospital or something. And then he asked Srila Govinda Maharaj later, and he was actually really angry with Krishna. And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, if your pain gives pleasure to Krishna, then that's the greatest um, something, the greatest
Yeah.
thing, So, but you just knew you had Gurudev's affection and protection. So, even if things happened like that, it wasn't like
Yeah. There was no
there.
like deep fear. There was
No,
no fear. It was just like, okay, well, that's an inconvenience. We're still happy. Let's keep going, on this adventure.
it's such an adventure, and
Yeah.
I felt like actually I learned so much from that time when I look back. Like I did get to the point where I had to decide, well, am I going to keep doing this or am I going to, I felt like it wasn't natural for me to do that for the rest of my life in terms of, traveling, preaching like a sannyasi or something. It didn't feel natural. I needed to have more of a balance. And I did talk with that about to Gurudev as well. And he was fine for me to get married and, um,
Mm.
but and even before he had said, be strong now and marry later. And that's a whole nother topic, but I've had lots of talks with him about that. But Um, I was going to say, oh yeah. So I felt like that gave that time just taught me so much in one sense, like just to depend on Gurudev, with what you're doing, that money coming to you because people give donations, money coming to you with Gurudev's money, um,
Mhm.
and then just so much strength that comes when you follow Gurudev, so much, yeah, just that whole mood of just complete dependence on Gurudev, and that was such a experience to completely, you know, develop that. I don't think I obviously didn't have the oomph or the security. I don't know. I couldn't carry it out completely, just to completely give it up. Maybe next lifetime, but yeah, it's carried. That whole experience carries through my whole life, really, and I
Yeah.
to always come back to that.
Yeah, it's not easy. I have so much appreciation after that trip. Those 6 months taught me so much like respect and appreciation for anyone who travels and preaches. Like to not really have, and then this, we did it for that 6 months, and then we had a home to come back to. But then so many
I,
preachers, they don't have a home. That
yeah,
is their life. And to not, and a part of it kind of seems like, oh, that's so cool, just like always traveling, but it's really, um, it tests you. It's like you're really at the mercy of, I mean, on a more mundane level, you're at the mercy of your host or wherever you're going, but really you have to kind of surrender. You're at the mercy of Srila Gurudev. um, that was one realization and I had is, yeah, this is okay. This is definitely not for me, but um, at the same time, I'm so grateful for that experience. And I personally, like looking back, I just feel like Gurudev arranged that for me for my own purification. I don't feel like looking back, like, what was I doing? When I was speaking, I was like, come on, like, I had no clue what I was talking about. But Gurudev still put me in that position to like, hey, like, go purify yourself, try.
I felt
Yeah.
like that. I felt like, yeah, he's doing it for me to become purified and strong.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you
yeah,
were speaking Harikatha at a very young age. And I remember when I first moved to Australia, it was like 2005 or 6. And you were already like in all the weekly programs in Brisbane. At that time, it was normal. It was like, oh, Chandramukhi, I'll put her on the spot and she can speak Katha anywhere in front of anyone. That was normal back then. But now looking back, like, that's amazing. That's like Gurudev really gave so much Shakti. You were able to speak Katha from such a young age, in front of like all those like senior devotees. And it's really amazing. I
yeah,
think Shila Gurudev really, empowered you and Ragalika, both of you, so much. Anyway, I'll let you continue with with the memories.
yeah. So, um, yeah, well, I guess I might just tell a few little stories then that happened over the years, and I can't remember necessarily when they were, or exactly what order, but I was remembering several different stories and memories. Um, look at my notes here. So one time, my sister, when Gurudev was staying in our house, one of those times. Oh, I didn't tell the photo story actually. I should tell that because you
Mhm.
mentioned it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going back to those early days. He actually stayed at our house for 4 years in a row after that, and then he would go into Mawullumba, the town, and I think he came about 10 times all up to
Wow.
Mawullumba. There was a 3 year gap between the last one, and yeah. Anyhow, um, so yeah, as I was saying, Shila Gurudev used to like my photos. He would say, "You're my best photographer." Um,
Wow.
he liked that I took them in, like I'd get them in the natural mood. like, smiling or anyhow. He asked me to take some photos. He actually let me he actually posed for me. He sat down on the veranda and he sat down on the veranda at that little octagon pagoda that he was staying in. We took photos, and he took photos on the lawn, and he wanted it to be all different angles. Like I was saying, the front, the side, back, and he wanted it for his murti in the future, which was kind of like something we didn't want to think about. And then when he was sitting on the veranda, taking those photos, he realized that he didn't have tilak on. So then he went and put tilak on, and he's sitting there and beautifully putting his tilak on. I've got a photo of that. And Vrindavan Vilasini Didi and Rukmavati Didi were there with me the whole time. And Gurudev hadn't been smiling while I was taking the photos. So Rukmavati thought she'd try and make me laugh. And she said to Gurudev, Vrindavan Vilasini is so ugly. And Gurudev just started laughing.
Wow.
So I got all these laughing poses. One time when my sister brought one girl down to meet Srila Gurudev. She was a neighbour. She was one of her friends who she'd play with down the road. And this girl could actually see auras. She was just gifted as a child to be able to have that vision. So when she came in to meet Srila Gurudev, she saw his aura was like this massive, big, golden spiral going all around him and spiraling up to the ceiling, like just taking up the whole room. And then he looked at her and said, "Do you want to be my darling daughter?" And of course she said yes. But I don't know where she is now. It'll be interesting to see her and see if she remembers. Yeah, I mean, Gurudev just enchanted all of our hearts and anyone that came there. What else? So another time, when we first, so going to India now, I might go to India. When we first arrived in India for Rajmandal program, it was our first time to India. And I remember Gurudev was sitting with him and he said, "So did you remember me from time to time in Australia?"
Oh.
Of course we did, Gurudev. And he actually, when we were in Mathura Mutt, he actually invited us to stay in one of the rooms in the Mutt because we had hosted him. So he wanted to host us. So we stayed in a room just around the corner from where he was staying for a week. And yeah, the Harikatha for going to Kartik, oh my God, like it was just such a meditation. Like it put you in like a trance state for a month. Being in his association, he would get us to sing for him. As also, actually, the first time we ever sung for him, what was the song I sung at the beginning, Madhurastakam, and one of the visits to Australia, I think it was a morning. There was a morning program scheduled because when he first came, actually, he was giving morning and evening classes. The mornings were very informal. It'd be after his morning walk, and he'd sit down, and it'd be very like informal, like a darshan, but he'd speak something. And then in the evenings, it'd be the class. And then, as we know, after the years went on, he couldn't do that every day. He would only do the evening ones, and because of his health. And but this particular year, I think it was maybe the first year he dropped back to just the evening, and or he would come sometimes in the morning. And so this one day he wasn't going to come in the morning because he wasn't feeling well. And we were up in the shed, which is where we'd arranged to have the programs. The first year it was in our house. We'd have like 150 people trying to squeeze into our house. But then the other years, my father cleared out the shed. And so we were sitting there. Everyone was doing bhajans for the, like beginning of class and before class would start. And we weren't sure actually if Gurudev was going to come or not, but we'd heard that he probably wouldn't. And Damodar Maharaj, who was Radhanath Prabhu at that time, he was getting different people to sing, and so he got us to sing Madhurastakam. and it was going out through the microphones and that. So when Gurudev heard the Madhurastakam, he actually came up. He came up from his room and came to the class and came through the crowd, and there he was. And he was really happy to hear that song.
Wow.
And from then on, he would get us to sing that song all the time, every time
All
we'd
the
see
time.
him.
Wow.
And he would give beautiful explanations about it. And or if he was in Brisbane once, and he would speak about how Krishna is so sweet, and how Radharani is so sweet, and he would speaking about the beauty and sweetness of Krishna, and then he would interrupt the class and get my sister and I to sing that song, um, or at different times during Kartik as well. He would get us to sing, and then we also sung Harikatha for him, because one lady was singing it one year in Australia, and he wanted us to learn it. So it was so wonderful.
Kumkumapta Kanchanabja, right? The
Yeah,
third. I
yeah,
remember that too. Yeah.
yeah. And he would even like sing a little bit at the end with us, like trying to teach us what to do next. And then he'd say Hari Bol, like he wanted to like quietly
Mhm.
tell us what to say next. And then he's like like this, like sing more loudly and do make it more fast, and just guiding us in how to do it. But yeah, it just felt so, you know, like there's this big crowd, and Gurudev's calling you up in front of the crowd to sit you down and sing, and just really felt like you belonged to Gurudev. Yeah, I remember one time in Mathura, he was coming down from the stairs to the class, and I was at the back of the crowd, and he was about to walk past. He was coming down the stairs, and I was just kind of getting down, half down, to pay my obeisances when he arrived. But somehow I just spaced out, and I didn't really. I don't know. I spaced out. I didn't realize Gurudev was right in front of me, and he walked past me and went like this on my head. It was really funny. We also did a lot of dramas for Gurudev. Um, yeah, I remember one year, the first and maybe the second year he came, we actually did a drama or two for him, and he was really happy. So he wanted me to do it all the time. Um, and he would specifically say, I think he said this in a letter. He would specifically say that the dramas make impressions on the hearts of the audience. So you should learn to make to make them in the line of our acharyas, and consult your father about it, and other devotees, and how important they are to make impressions on the heart of the audience. And then of course, if you were successful, he'd give all of us a big pat on the head, and yeah, so many blessings at the end of those plays, that you would realize all these truths. And yeah, yes. So thinking what to say next. And then okay, so
What about,
another story.
sorry, go on.
How much time do we have?
What time is it? Oh, we have plenty of time. We can go for another 30 minutes, so don't worry, just
Yeah.
keep flowing.
Um,
Yeah.
yes. So another time, at the end of Kartik, we had my sister and I had. Okay. Oh yeah, I've got a few stories at Kartik that I wanted to tell. That's right. Okay, I'm going to tell these ones first because they're earlier. Um, so when we went to Vrindavan, I think the first stop the first year was in in Mathura, and then we went to Vrindavan, Rup Sanatan Gaudiya. Can you imagine the whole Parikrama party fitting in that temple? I look at
Yeah.
it now and just think, wow, that's so small.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so we were staying at a dharmshala that when we got there, and my mother was kind of feeling a bit out of sorts, I guess, because it's a bit of culture shock being in Vrindavan, and she couldn't actually even navigate herself properly around those streets. We had to help her everywhere she went, and she was just feeling a bit like out of sorts and disconnected. So we went to see Srila Gurudev in his room in Rupsanad and Gaudiya up there near Sevakuj, and she expressed to Gurudev how she was feeling. And Gurudev looked at us and he said, "You should think that my hand is always over your head." And then he actually gave her a little service. He said that he wanted her to get some jasmine flowers and make a little garland for his Thakurji every day. and he had like a photo frame with like joined together, double photo frame, just small, with Radhavino Bihari and his Gurudev that he would take everywhere, and he wanted her to make a little garland for them. So
Wow.
it was really sweet. She would do that every day in Vrindavan while we were there. And then when we went to Govardhan, at Govardhan, at that time we were at Modi Bhavan and we were right in the lap of Govardhan. It was so beautiful. Did you go there to Modi Bhavan? No. Oh,
No.
so such beautiful times. And I mean, it was all beautiful going to Govardhan. It's always beautiful, but we were right across the road from Kiriraj. They had a big hall um, where everybody would stay. Like everybody would stay in the big hall, and then there was just a few rooms. There wasn't many rooms. There were only about 5 rooms over on the side, and then a couple of rooms where Gurudev would stay. And anyway, my mom kind of like freaked out a bit because she's like, I don't know, it was just a bit too much for her to have to stay in a big room like that with 100 or 200 people.
Wow. Wow. I
So
didn't know that. It was just like everyone in kind of like Navadvip where all the Bengalis and just
yeah, yeah,
wow. Like with your mosquito nets, maybe.
yes, yeah, maybe, yeah, yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so yeah, my mom kind of panicked a bit, and we ended up taking her down to Niguna and Nilachala's room because they had a room from the devotees from Badger with
Mhm.
Lalita, and my mom word got to Gurudev that my mom was really upset, so he actually came to see her personally and
Wow.
came to the room and calmed her down and asked her
Wow.
to chant Radha's name and she was fine after that. So how beautiful. I think she ended up staying in that room with them. I can't remember where we stayed. Um, Even Gurudev was just so personal. You'd be on program with all these people, and then all of a sudden he would just be there, and he might say something to you briefly, or um, just part of his family. It's amazing. I even remember the very first year on Parikrama, the very first day of Kartik Rajmandal Parikrama at Mathura Mart, and everyone was having the feast upstairs, and uh, he actually came out of his room. His room was on that level, and he came out on the room and was going of his room and was going through the people and seeing if they'd had enough prasadam or if they had their accommodation sorted, or if everyone was okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then jumping to a few years later, we came. It was just my sister and I think, that came this year, and I can't remember what year it was. And uh, we had had a beautiful darshan with Gurudev when we first arrived. He'd given us some very nice instructions. I think my sister had asked him about, what to do with your mind, like, when it gets disturbed, and he wanted us to read Bhagavad Gita. He said to
Hmm.
read Srila Bhagavad Gita and Srila and his Gita, and then everything, you have everything. And
Oh.
he talked about that in regards to the mind. I think he said some more, but unfortunately, my mind can't remember everything. Um, and then we didn't get to have a darshan again at the end of Kartik, so we were feeling like, oh, it'd be so nice to see him. And after we were feeling like that, after we were thinking like that and talking about it, we happened to meet Brenda Didi because Kartik had ended, right? Everything was over, and we were in Vrindavan. Gurudev was in Mathura, but we happened to meet Brenda Didi in the street in Loy Bazaar, and she's told us the dates Gurudev's leaving, and we were thinking, oh, we could just change our ticket and we could go the same day. So
Mhm.
we did. We
Uh-huh.
booked our ticket to leave the same day in Delhi. So we, went off to Delhi, and there was other devotees who wanted to come and see Gurudev at the airport. So we had shared taxi, and there was other devotees that came there too. And we got there before Gurudev, so we thought, well, let's go inside. And we had a ticket, so we could, but everyone else had to stay on the outside. And so then we went to the door, and the people at the door said, "Oh, you can't actually come in because your flight isn't for hours and hours away. It was like 4 or 5 hours away. Gurudev's was earlier than us."
Oh,
and and that he said you'll have to go. And we turned around, and there was this like about 30 or 40 Asian tourists with their luggage all behind us, and it was impossible for us to get out. So they said, "Oh well, you just have to go in." So they sent us in.
amazing.
And then we got to greet Gurudev inside the airport as he came in. Um,
Wow.
and he basically just, because there was nowhere to sit outside. There was other devotees outside waiting to see him, but there was nowhere to sit. It was just the road, and it wasn't very nice really to stay out there. So Gurudev just had to come in straight away, and we were there to greet him with our. We had huge luggage because we had all these books that we were taking back to distribute, and so anyway, Gurudev was like, "Oh, where did you come from?" And then he wanted us to come and sit with him, and all of the his traveling, the devotees who were traveling with him, Brajanath, Madhav Maharaj, etc., Brinda Didi, they all had to go and check their luggage in while Gurudev sat there um, waiting, and so we sat with him. We were just us and Gurudev, and he wouldn't let us sit on the floor. He said, "You're my daughters. You sit next to me." And it was,
Oh,
he said, "It's dirty on the floor, so sit next to me." And it was funny because the wall of the airport was actually a window, so everyone, all the devotees on the outside, could see Gurudev on the inside with me and my sister sitting next to him. And anyway, yeah, it was really sweet. And he asked us how was our Kartik, and he, we had beautiful, lots of beautiful exchanges. It was very informal and casual, like he was our father. And he said, my sister asked him a question. Um, she said that if any inspiration comes in your mind, then how do you know whether that's from Krishna or that's just your own mind?
mm-hmm.
And Gurudev said that your mind is always trying to, um, it's always trying to take you away from Krishna. But if anything is coming that's bringing you towards Krishna, you should see that it's the mercy of any transcendental personality. And then he gave a cheeky smile.
Wow, I remember this. I remember, I think Ragalika shared that with me. That's beautiful.
And then I asked him that. Uh, I asked him, you know that song about Sharanagati, the song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where it says that only someone who has fully surrendered will Krishna will hear their prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little confused about that because I felt like Krishna had heard my prayers in different situations, and I didn't feel like I had fully surrendered like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I asked him about that, and he basically said I shouldn't be worried about it. That um, he said new things will come into your heart, and Krishna will hear your prayers. You will advance very quickly, something like that. And yeah, it was just really beautiful. But I reflected on it later, and I've heard other Vaishnavas say, I mean, Krishna's in Vrindavan playing, right? But his expansions, the super souls in our heart, hearing us all the time. And I guess we want Krishna and Vrindavan to hear us, but Gurudev's there and he's hearing us, and
Yeah.
he's bringing us to Krishna. And yeah, he said Krishna will hear your prayers. And he said many other instructions. It's hard to remember everything. I so wish I wrote everything down back then. Like here we are reflecting on this, what, 10 years later after he's departed. I wish I'd done this 10 years ago. Um, anyway, he was telling us never become weak, always be strong, and to preach. And oh, that's right. There was a lady who came there who had worked, who was his disciple or knew him, and she was working in the airport. So she came and offered pranams, and
Wow.
Gurudev was talking to her in Hindi, and I can't understand Hindi, but a few words I could kind of guess what Gurudev was saying. That he was telling her that we can sing Sanskrit bhajans and that we're preaching everywhere. Just encourage her, like because
Yeah.
Western doing it that's encouraging for Indian devotees. Um, oh, that's right. We also asked him about coming to Australia. Because he, at that time, I think the Australian government was making it difficult for elderly Indian citizens to come. They'd have to go through all these tests and everything. And we actually didn't realize the inconvenience it would cause for Gurudev to come to Australia, but we heard he wasn't going to come. So we just said, Gurudev, you must come to Australia. Please come to Australia. And when Brajanath and the other devotees came back, um, I said to Brajanath, Gurudev said he'd come to Australia. And Gurudev said, yes, I will go. I think
No
he
one
got
can stop Gurudev.
he did come, but I think he had to have 3 years break after that before he came again. I think
Oh,
he came again because he got a green card from America. So he came
right.
as an American citizen.
Yeah, he got his passport. Yeah.
Yeah,
So then he was allowed to travel like freely.
yeah, that's right. So
Mm.
he came again in 2008, which is the last visit. And then, just to finish that airport story, so we had told Gurudev, because he asked us what was in our luggage because there was so much of it. And we told him that we had books to take home and distribute, which he was very happy about. And then when we went to check in later, after Gurudev had left and everything, the lug, when they weigh your luggage, it was like triple the amount that you're allowed, and they didn't even notice at all. They just didn't even look at it. They just let us through. So I felt like that was Gurudev's inspiration and blessings.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's amazing because normally they're so particular about the weight of your luggage. Yeah. I've heard a couple of stories like that when with devotees carrying too much luggage and it's Gurudev. Sometimes it's like Gurudev's stuff. I think there was one lady, she was going back to her country. I don't remember where, but she was carrying a lot of Gurudev stuff. And she prayed to Gurudev and no issues. Like everyone else was having issues, she had no issues.
Yeah. And Gurudev would always show us how he's always with us and never leaves us, right? Like he'd give us that faith that I'm always with you and have full confidence in that. And I was thinking of a few memories that relate to that. Um, One it was one year when he went to Cessnock. Cessnock is a town that's about 2 hours north of Sydney, and he came to Murwillumbah first that year, and then he went down to Cessnock, and of course, all of the Murwillumbah devotees, most of the Murwillumbah devotees were down there, and he was so happy to see everybody. Um, oh, his Harikatha was so beautiful. He was just feeling so grateful that we'd all come down just for Harikatha to see him. And he said something to the effect that Krishna is hearing us and he's so pleased. Um, sorry, seeing us, not hearing us. And anyway, it was his Vyasa Puja while he was down there. And I wanted to write Gurudev something. I'd never written anything for his Vyasa Puja before. And uh, actually, Gurudev never used to have anyone speak on his Vyasa Puja either in the early days. Um, but anyhow, so I didn't really have time, but in the morning on the day of his Vyasa Puja, I woke up early and I had all this inspiration of what to write first thing in the morning, when your mind is fresh and clear. So I wrote down an offering for Gurudev and um, yeah, pouring out my heart basically. And he, I can't remember how I got it to his house, whether it was at the morning walk or something, but uh, Rajanath Prabhu told me later that because lots of people had written offerings and all the cards and everything were on the table. I had written it in a card actually, a big card that I'd made or something. And Rajanath told me that he went to the table and he went straight to my offering and picked it up and read it. And
Wow.
my father was in the room at the time and he said, "Your daughter writes so beautifully." And he said, "I want her to read this tonight at the program." And he got me to read it, but he got other people to speak that time. I think it might have been the first time he actually got people to speak that year. So it just showed me that, how omniscient he is and how he is always with you. And if you are speaking, if you're not from your heart, then he shows you, which I've had experiences as well, like where um, you're just on the mental platform and you'll somehow get cut. That's not the right way to behave or be. He'll churn your heart so that you are coming from your heart. But when you are, he reciprocated, and he yeah, showed me. Yes, he's right there. He knows. And there was another time I was thinking, I mean, there's so many times. I know we've all had these experiences so many times, but there was just another one that stands out. Um, After those years, he would stay with us. He wouldn't come and stay with us anymore, but he would always come and visit when he was in Wollongong. And we're at Kartik, it was the end of the year, and usually he would come only a month or two after Kartik. And it was uh, it was one morning walk when it was after Kartik. Gurudev came out for his morning walk, and my mother, my sister, and I, we were there to greet him like so many others before he went on his morning walk. And Gurudev, my mother said, Gurudev, when you come to Australia, will you come to our house? And Gurudev looked at my sister and I, and he said, what will they do? Will they quarrel with me? And then he kept walking. We were like, whoa, what does that mean? And then we were thinking about it. And the night before, we had stayed up late talking to each other about the difficulties we were having in our life and complaining and, like, trying to work out how we could make it different and, basically, complaining. And it felt like
Wow.
Gurudev was saying, you're quarreling with me. I arranged everything for you. Everything that happens to us is Gurudev's arrangement. So it really made me reflect a lot on that, and everything is Gurudev. Everything that happens to us is from Gurudev, which has brought me through a lot of difficult situations later as well. Knowing, trying to see that it's his hand in it to train us and teach us, because we need some hammering sometimes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Didn't
wow.
Gurudev say something like, I will always remember Vrajvala Prabhu and his whole family and his cat?
Yeah.
Or something? Oh, and the cat. Can you can you remind, like, there was like always a cat around, right?
We had a cat that we had for years and years, and when Gurudev would come, it actually took off. It just, because there's be so many people there, it was
Mm-hmm.
scared. Um,
I was
but I
scared.
didn't even
But
I
was
don't
that a
know that.
pet cat, like, or
Yeah,
was it just? Oh, okay, okay, okay.
it would come like late at night, and Brenda Didi would feed it Gurudev's Mahaprasadam. And yeah, it would just go, and it was scared of the people. Then it would come out at night and get fed, and um, yeah, Brenda Didi would feed it. And I don't even remember the cat going to Gurudev. Maybe it went down to his house as well. I don't know. But
Wow,
he,
it got Gurudev's prasad though. Where is that cat now? Probably in some heavenly body somewhere. Oh my God.
sure, the cat's a devotee somewhere.
I'm
Um,
sure, absolutely.
and
Wow.
I don't remember. Gurudev never said anything until that point. And one time when we were in Brisbane, when he was about to leave the country, um, we were there. My sister and my mother and I think it was just us three. And Gurudev was saying, we don't say goodbye. Oh no, actually no, my dad was there, because he said in Australia we don't say goodbye, we say see you later or see you after. And Gurudev liked that. He said, yes, see you after. And then he said, I will never forget Rajavallabha and his family, and I'll even never forget their cat. Thanks for reminding me of that.
It's so special. Wow.
Yeah. I remember one time he said, "I've married you to Krishna." Actually, there was one time in when I was at university. It just reminds me about how he would take us into his family. But I was just about to finish university, and I was feeling actually, I don't know whether it was just about to finish. I was just feeling like, oh, my life's not going in a good direction. I felt, like a bit despondent, and I was writing that to Gurudev. And he sent me back a beautiful letter, and I wanted to read some of it because it's just really, really encouraging. He says, "I received your letter and became so happy to hear from you. I am always remembering you and was eagerly waiting to hear from you. Your letter only reached me a few days ago, so I could not answer you earlier. You should be like me. Do not fear anything in this world. I am always putting my feet on the head of all the problems that come to me. The more problems, the more I become absorbed in hearing and chanting. If we try to avoid problems or solve them by any material solution, they will increase and we will be left without any inspiration to hear and chant. Or we want a peaceful situation where we can chant and practice our sadhana. Do not look for any shortcut. The only solution to this material existence is to become part of the family of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He will maintain you and nourish you in every way beyond your expectations. I know this for a fact. You can have full faith in my words. My heartly blessings are always for you and for your whole family. I am eagerly looking forward to meet with you again at the time of Rajamandal Parikrama."
Wow.
So just such
Powerful.
powerful words, to he said you can have full faith in my words. I know this for a fact, that if you just become part of the family of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will maintain you and nourish you in every way beyond your expectations. And I've just been reflecting on this that lately. I mean, there's a lot of disturbance going on in the world, as we know, and in Australia at the moment, our government is pretty full on with enforcing everybody to do what they want with vaccines and everything, and even to the point of wanting to keep them out of unvaccinated people out of businesses and everything. And there's a lot of fear going around everywhere, and I was just really reflecting on this, that our family is Gurudev's. We're Gurudev's. We're Gurudev's. He's our father. He's our everything, and he's bringing us into Lord Chaitanya's family, and we don't actually have anything to fear. Like Gurudev said here, he says, "Do not fear anything in this world. I am always putting my head on the feet on the head of all the problems that come to me. The more problems that come, the more I become absorbed in hearing and chanting." And he's saying, if you try to avoid the problems or solve them by any material solution, then we'll be left without an inspiration to hear and chant. So yeah, and I was thinking, and I just remembered the other day, Gurudev said to me once, "I have married you to Krishna," and like that's a big thing. Like I kind of forgot about it actually, and I think he gave the example once, not to me personally, but maybe in a class, about in Vedic times where they would marry the young girl to a boy, and they wouldn't live with each other yet, but they would know their mind is set on this particular
They're
person.
promised.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. They were promised to someone, so they weren't worried. And so he said, it's like that. I've married you to Krishna. It's just a matter of time for that to you know fructify. But we don't have to worry about anything. And he would say you should see Krishna as your beloved, and you know that Krishna is always taking care of us in every single way, and Gurudev's always taking care of us. Our bhakti, bringing us closer. And I remember also he said once, "If you think of me, I'll be there." So he's our big lamppost in this darkness of this material world to call us home. Well, I'm not sure how much more I can. What else to say?
Well, that was beautiful. And I mean, I'll share some of my reflections. And if you remember anything, you're welcome to add.
All right.
Normally Ajay Prabhu does a really beautiful job of collecting, kind of giving a summary. So I'm gonna start with my last point first, and it's what you just said about fear. It's really interesting that you talk about this because my husband Sachin and I, we were just talking about so he about this, like about fearing, and some devotees, well, not only devotees but many people in the world, like there's so much fear, yes, even in terms of like people losing their freedom, and it's horrible, what's happening around the world, especially in Australia and New Zealand. I think it's way worse than what's happening here. At least, living in a Republican state, I feel like I'm kind of happy
Oh,
that
you're lucky.
we have so much freedom, and
My dad
there's
said, he
no.
said, I want to leave Australia and live in a Republican state in America.
Yeah, yeah, that's another point, but I'm kind of grateful. I'd never tell Sachin this, but I'm grateful to live in Texas right now. Hopefully he didn't hear me. Anyway, but some people, there's a lot of fear of what's going to happen in the future because of all these predictions, and so many people are like telling, he came home today, and he's some devotees, I mean, we've been hearing things, but at the same time we're not giving too much attention to it, but he came home today, and some devotees are really, affected, deep down by this, and they're telling him, Sachin, open your eyes, move out of the cities and all these things. And I said, look, maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen. But do we need to live in a fear? Like, what is there to fear? And it was just this point, and then you're bringing up that Gurudeva is like, this is so clear: do not fear anything in this world. And especially, if you try to have a material solution, that's not gonna work. And what can we do? We can only do, I mean, of material solutions is what we're gonna think of to save ourselves from the future. But just Gurudev's words are just so crystal clear: do not fear. And I think that's something that I needed that reminder right now, actually, just the confirmation, especially with so much fear right now. There's so, like, I think it's going around. I'm sure you've heard of it. But everything you said was so beautiful, and I think it just reminded me so much of like how personal Gurudev was with everyone. like like personal relation, and this is so unique to Gurudev. So many acharyas have come and they had so much like gravity, and everyone had their speciality, but Gurudev had a personal touch. And I heard someone gave this similarity to Sanatan Goswami. He was like, so he would go around in Braj, and he had a personal connection with everyone, and Gurudev was just like that. He had a personal connection. And these sessions that Ajay Krishna Prabhu does, it every day, I mean, every time I tune in, I hear that over and over and over and over, like how personally, it might be this, random little family in some random little town, but they were so deeply touched in a personal way. To Gurudev, came down to our level and became a family member, because we are his, he's so merciful. He became part of the family. He adopted us as his own. And I think that's really beautiful. And in all his interactions, like going and making sure that your mother is okay, because he was so grateful also, especially to those that hosted him. He was so grateful. My in-laws here, Sachin and his parents, they hosted Gurudev since 96 in their home. And same thing, whenever they went to like parikrama, and Gurudev gave so much care that, oh, you've come, like, are you okay, are you comfortable? And just always so grateful. And they had a lot of similar experiences there as well, like with people taking over their home. And yeah, and with you personally coming and telling you, I will help you. And Gurudev, there's so many statements that only Gurudev can make, and in those state, even though he's so simple, so humble, and so like down to earth, at the same time, his small statements just establish his position, telling you that he's married you to Krishna. I mean, only Gurudev. Like how Gurudev, he's just, even by saying that, he's revealing that he has the power to do that, to marry you to Krishna. And he did this all the time. Do you remember in 2008 in Marulamba when Gurudev went on the boat? Across, we were waiting on the side of the river, and he came back, and some devotees said, "Oh, Gurudev, you went without us, you didn't take us across the river." And he said, what did he say? Do you remember his exact words? Like, I remember he was getting in his car. He said, "Don't worry, this is just a small river. I will take you." He went like this, and he pointed, "I will take you there," And we were like, there was only a handful of devotees, but we were like, Gurudev so easily and casually is saying, "Don't worry, I'll take you across this whole thing and take you there, Don't worry about the small river." Because he went in a small. There's some pictures. I think if some devotees may have seen. There's a Gurudev and Mathuranath Prabhu and Madhav Maharaj, three people in a boat. And I was so scared because like there was such a heavy current. But Gurudev was like, and I remember Madhav Maharaj was so happy, and they were going across the river, and we all had to wait on the other side. No one could cross, but we waited for Gurudev, and so casually says, "Oh, don't worry, you're going." Yeah, you can unmute now.
I muted myself because I've got a fuzzy speaker, and I think that's where the echo is coming from. So I
It's
just
good now.
that the water was actually flood waters. Do you remember? It was
Yeah.
flooded, but it was only a little flood. It wasn't high, and it was a little canoe. It was just a little.
Yeah, not a boat, a small canoe. But I felt scared. I was like, how is Gurudev going in this little, and even though it was flood water, there was a stream there, right? Or was it just dry land?
There's a big
River,
river.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember, and the Damodar Maharaj actually jumped in and swam across, but all the devotees waited for Gurudev to go across and then come back. And so casually, he just said, "Don't worry, I will take you across and take you there to Golok." Yeah, I think he said to Golok Vrindavan. So casually, and he always did this because he's full of, so powerful. Um, So yeah, Guru Vastik. I mean Madhurastikam. I remember that. I mean, I countless times I've seen you and Ragalika sing this, and I in Italy in 2010. Me and you sang this. I remember there's a picture somewhere of us singing this for Gurudev, and I just feel so grateful to have been included in that. And this is new. Read Gita to control disturbed mind. I've never heard that. That's amazing. Like, that's something that I can remember, that I've never heard Gurudev say. Read Bhagavad Gita to control your mind. That's really beautiful. Yeah, and then I guess um, our last darshan was in Kartik. Oh, just before Kartik, we came after our tour, and we had our pranami to give to Gurudev. And I remember that even though he was in his like sickness pastime, I remember he was, I think, in a wheelchair when we went into the room. And when we handed him that like wad of cash, do you remember? He looked so happy. Like, I think he said so much. Like, right? And
Did he pat you on the head? I remember he just gave me a really gentle pat because he didn't have much energy, just like Yeah,
I remember. I think I what I remember is that he like I felt like he put his hand on my head
yeah,
and then he put his hand on your head. And yeah, that was just I remember telling him, Gurudev, in Hindi, I said, get well quickly. We need to hear from you. And he said, Theek hai. He said, Theek hai. And that was my last proper darshan.
yeah,
Uh, yours too?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. And then during Kartik, he came out and gave a few public darshans. And in
From
those darshans,
from his doorway.
from his doorway in Govardhan. And in those darshans, we were just talking. I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and he was saying, like, can you believe even in that, in his sickness time, he was so weak, but he came out and he said, come to Navadvip. I remember specifically, that was one of his main instructions. So he had so much importance for his parikramas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. Yeah.
Um,
He
Yeah,
wanted to.
Ajay Prabhu. Oh, go on. Sorry, please.
He wanted to. I remember he said something about he's taking. It was in Navadip Parikama one year, and he was. I was had a little. He was in his behind his mosquito net in his room, and he said something like he's taking everybody in a net and bringing them around, catching them. And it's only by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu that's possible that we have this many people and then there's no casualties or anything.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful, and he really showed his shakti in everything. The whole operation of the parikramas, and even him, and like even you guys at the airport giving you that personal, he never, I was just thinking, like, if it was any ordinary person, it would be like, okay, well, I need a break now from people, but Gurudev's always giving. He was always giving, always giving, always his energy, giving out his energy. We're so indebted to him, always, never, and superhuman, never jet lagged, always just on the go. He arrives at any new country fresh and ready to go. His time his time schedule never changed. He's ready, always awake, Mangalarti, all that. Like not it was he's absolutely superhuman. He made
At
it look
once,
so flawless.
when we were in Italy, and remember his rooms was too small to have darshans in where he was staying, so they would have darshans out in the crowd, like in the hall, and so there'd be a lot of people there. Do you remember? I remember feeling like I didn't need to go see Gurudev personally. I don't know what you did, but I remember I just felt like I've had so much from him. I don't need to go because there's so many people. So I was just watching. Maybe you were there too. Just
I was
watching where everybody was coming up. There has a big line, like massive, massive line of people coming up to give Gurudev something
yeah.
or talk to him, and he just reciprocated with every single one of them. We were just watching there, and he's sitting on the Vyasa-san, and he'd talk to one, or he'd just again and again and again and again and again. Every single person he was so personal with and giving everything to him, that person. And then some people would come and they couldn't look Gurudev in the eye. They were too shy. They just touched his feet and then kept going. And Gurudev couldn't do anything. He just had to look at them. And I was thinking, he reciprocate. If we reciprocate with him, then so if we're like open to him, then he's just so open to us. But if we're not open to him, then it's he'll try in some way, but so it's just like you were saying, just giving, 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 giving to everyone.
When you say that, like I feel like I also didn't feel the need to go and see him because we arrived at the festival, and that first day he saw after the program, I don't know if you remember, he looked at me and he said, where I am, come and meet me.
We
And
went.
but we didn't go that we went the next day in the morning. We didn't go the same day. And then he looked at me, he said, I called you, why didn't you come? And in my mind, I was thinking like, but Gurudev, you didn't tell me when to come. I felt so stupid. Anyway, but yeah, I remember then we told him, oh, we're about to start our European tour, and he gave us like blessings, like go, be strong,
Yeah.
preach. Amazing. Ajay Krishna Prabhu, please share your
Can I
words.
can I
Yeah.
just before
Thank
we
you,
finish?
Didi. It was very nice to hear from
Chandramukhi
some.
Didi is gonna add something else.
Okay, okay.
Sorry,
Say,
just
you can say it.
one more. Oh, sorry, just one more thing because it's in relation to the world situation right now and what we were talking about before. And um, I'm not saying that this is how we should do it now because the world is different now than it was 20 years ago. But I think the essence of it is right for us to, obviously Krishna will give us inspiration, but um, there was some devotees back then who were very much scared of war coming, and they were making arrangements to go inland and storing food and um, have property inland and everything. And Gurudev said that there's so many problems in this material world. This was in a class in our house actually down in Moolumba. That Gurudev, he was saying that there's so many problems in this world, and the only problem we should be focusing on is that we've forgotten Krishna. We've forgotten our relationship with Krishna. That's the problem we should be focusing on. And, trying to rekindle our relationship with Krishna. He said, whatever's meant to happen will happen. Like he said, like in the Calcutta, when there was a war, maybe it was in the Second World War, or I don't know, there was a bomb that came, and people tried to hide in the haystack in the shed, and just a spark of the fire came and they all went up. So
Mm,
he was just making the point that whatever Krishna will want to happen, whether you're out, if you're meant to die, if you're out inland and you're trying to hide from this and that, um, if you're meant to die, you will. And if
yeah.
you're not, you're not, wherever you are. And the only problem we should focus on is reconnecting with Krishna. So I just wanted to share that just to
Yeah.
finish off.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that a Vaishnava will not fear even if there's a poisonous snake in the bed next to him. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's really
Okay, I
beautiful.
don't know. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you, Prabhu.
thank you, Didi, for joining us and telling us so beautiful experiences. And it's nice to hear from a person who is born in a devotee family and grown up with devotees all the time, and who has hosted Gurudev. And nice to hear from two friends who have done journey together, a lot of adventures together. So very, very good things you shared today. Few things which touched my heart. I'll just say, don't worry. I have accepted you. I want you. I want to take your tears and offer it to Radharani. Such beautiful words from Gurudev gives you so much assurance, and he would make Krishna so available, like our family member. Normally, God is so far from us. We think he's so big, but Krishna, the Gurudev style was to bring it to us like a family member. And he said, preach boldly. And you, both of you together did a lot of seva of preaching and doing tours where there's a lot of learning also. And you said you are at the mercy of Gurudev and Krishna. Yes, this is what it is. We are actually always at the mercy of Gurudev and Krishna, even when we are sitting at home and everything is so comfortable. But anything can go wrong anytime, like things happen. So this is called akinchan bhav. Akinchan means we have nothing. Even we have everything, but this bhav should be there that I am totally at mercy of Krishna. I have nothing. So this bhav will come. You already experienced this in your tours, which is really good. Like you said, the taxi came automatically. You're thinking of going. So all these things will happen when you're doing some seva. But if you're not doing any seva, then it is very difficult to get any realization. So these things will come. And then when we went to Gurudev, he said, "Do you remember me?" So personal. And he came to hear your Madhurastakam. I mean, he could not stay inside when such beautiful, you're singing such beautiful tone. He had to come out. And then you said any inspiration which takes you to Krishna, that is coming from Vaishnavas and Krishna, because the mind will always take us in the world. So you asked the question, how to decide? that whether it's coming from the higher authority or it is my own concoction. So if it is taking you to Krishna, then it is from inspiration from a higher Vaishnava. And I married you to Krishna, so nice to hear this. Actually, he does, when he gives Diksha, he's like a priest who will marry us to Krishna. And then finally, the letter you read was really, really beautiful. If you can share those, if you can share a picture, it is a very, I think it is very nice, but it's your personal letter. You don't want to share, then if you can write those things and share, because these are Gurudev words, and these are valid for everyone. Even though it is a personal letter to you, but those words which you read from there is very, very powerful and potent, and a lot of people can get a lot of inspiration, at least I can get, which said, do not fear anything in the world. More problems come, more I'm inclined for hearing and chanting. We are not like this. The more problems come, we succumb to the problems, and we generally go away from chanting. We start to work on sorting out those problems, and we put chanting and hearing at a secondary level, and we start working on the problems because they become more important. But here Gurudev is talking something totally opposite. He's saying more problems are coming, more I'm inclined to chanting and hearing. So this is something, some technique which we have to learn, which we are not used to. And he said, I'm eagerly waiting for you to come for the parikrama. And you can have full faith in my words. See, Gurudev is telling us again and again, because he knows that our faith is very shaky. It is not stable. So he's reassuring, you can have full faith in my words. And solution to all the problems is to become part of Chaitanya family. That is what he said in their letter. So solution, don't try to sort out the solution because it has come because of some of our karmas and because we are away from Krishna. Other day I was hearing Gurudev, he was saying, so many problems are coming and we are experiencing these problems, but we cannot figure out the root problem. That is not visible to us. The root cause of all problem is because we are away from Krishna, because we have forgotten him. Because of that, all these problems are coming. So we are not working at the root cause of the problem. We are working at the outer secondary cause. We're trying to sort out they will never be sorted out because the root is still there. We are still away from Krishna. So here he's telling the solution to all problems is to become part of Chaitanya family. And we are all part of Chaitanya family because of Gurudev. He has put us in that family. We were so much away from him, but now because of his mercy, he has given us so many God brothers, God sisters like you, all over the world, everywhere. And we are a big family, part of Chaitanya family because of our Srila Gurudev. So I offer my pranams to Srila Gurudev, also to you, Didi, and also to our Haripriya Didi, all the listeners. And tomorrow we are going to have program in Hindi. And tomorrow we have Prakash Prabhu who will join us. And tomorrow onward, I think most of the programs are in Hindi as of now, unless we get somebody else in between. So we'll join again. Thank you, Haripriya Didi. Thank you so much.
Thank
Over
you,
to you
Prabhu.
now.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just found a really nice picture of Chandramukhi Didi with Gurudev on Parikrama. Everyone can see that.
wow.
That's Chandramukhi Didi here, and then Ragaleka is right behind Madhav Maharaj. That's her sister, younger sister.
Which one is Ragalekha?
The one behind Madhav Maharaj.
Okay, they were okay, fine.
That's her younger sister, and we'll hopefully have Ragaleka Didi on here soon as well. And this is actually a picture of me and Chandramukhi singing for Gurudev. Unfortunately, Gurudev's not in this picture. We were singing Madhurastakam here. I'm the one in the blue, and she's. So this was in Italy in 2010. Yeah, and this is on one of our preaching tours. Preaching together. That's another one.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to share that. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Chandramukhi Didi. It was really beautiful to hear all your Gurudev memories. Hare Krishna, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrand ki jai. Gaur Bhakt Vrand ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Chandramukhi Didi ki jai. Hare Priya Didi ki jai. Gaur